Part 1 Taeyang Park was having a terrible day, and it was about to get much worse. He stood inside the environmental control room of Station Harmony, staring at a broken air filter that should have been replaced 3 months ago. His uniform was covered in grease, his back hurt, and he had 6 more hours left on his shift. Taeyang was 32 years old and he fixed things for a living. Air filters, water pumps, heating systems. Nothing exciting, nothing dangerous. Just the way he liked it. Station Harmony floated at the edge of human space, a massive wheel of metal and glass where different alien species came to talk instead of fight. Diplomats argued in conference rooms while people like Taeyang kept the lights on and the air clean. He had worked here for 5 years and preferred the quiet maintenance tunnels to the busy public areas. His communicator buzzed. It was his supervisor, Minha Lee. "Taeyang, are you still in Section 7? She asked. "Yes. The filter is worse than I thought." "Forget it for now. We need everyone out of the lower sections. Some alien delegation is arriving, and security wants the corridors clear." Taeyang frowned. "What kind of delegation?" There was a pause. The Vrelnath Empire. He felt his stomach drop. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Vrelnath. They were warriors, the kind that conquered planets before breakfast. Their empire stretched across dozens of systems, and they had never lost a war. Humans had signed a peace treaty with them 20 years ago, and everyone tried very hard not to make them angry. "Why are they coming here?" Taeyang asked. "Some cultural program. They're bringing children or something. Just get out of the lower sections, okay?" Taeyang packed his tools and started walking through the maintenance tunnel. The tunnels ran throughout the station like veins, narrow passages where workers could move without getting in anyone's way. He liked the tunnels. They were quiet. Except today. They were not quiet. Taeyang heard something ahead of him. Scratching sounds like claws on metal. He stopped walking and listened. The scratching got louder. Then he heard breathing, heavy and quick, coming from multiple sources. "Hello?" he called out. Dozens of eyes appeared in the darkness ahead. Taeyang took a step back. The eyes moved closer and he saw them clearly now. Children. Alien children. They looked like a cross between wolves and lizards covered in fur and scales with too many teeth and claws that scraped the floor. The smallest one was barely knee-high. The largest came up to his chest. And there were so many of them, they stared at him. He stared back. "Are you lost?" Taeyang asked slowly. The children moved closer. They sniffed the air, their heads tilted in a way that reminded him of curious dogs. One of them, a small one with silver fur and 3 eyes, stepped forward and grabbed onto Taeyang's leg. Taeyang said. More children rushed forward. They grabbed his arms, his other leg, his tool belt. They made strange, chirping sounds. Taeyang tried to stay calm even though his heart was racing. These were Vrelnath children, the deadliest species in the galaxy, and he was covered in their babies. "Okay," Taeyang said quietly. "Everyone just stay calm." His communicator buzzed frantically. He managed to pull it free with one hand. "Taeyang," Minha's voice was panicked. "Where are you? Security is going crazy. The Vrelnath cubs are missing. All 500 of them." Taeyang looked at the sea of alien children surrounding him. "I found them." "What? Where?" "They found me. I'm in Tunnel 7C and they're all here." "All of them?" "That's impossible. Stay there. Don't move. We're sending security." "I don't think I could move if I wanted to," Taeyang said. More cubs had piled onto him. Some were climbing on his back. 20 minutes later, the tunnel filled with people. Human security guards, Vrelnath warriors in dark armor, and several very upset-looking Vrelnath elders wearing long robes. The cubs did not move. They pressed closer to Taeyang, making defensive growling sounds. One of the Vrelnath elders stepped forward. He was tall, easily 8 feet, with gray fur and scars covering his arms. He spoke in a deep voice, and Taeyang's communicator translated the words. "Human, what have you done to our cubs?" "Nothing," Taeyang said quickly. "They came to me. I was just working and they showed up. Impossible. The cubs were released to choose their mentors. They spread throughout the station to find suitable candidates. They cannot all choose the same being. Well, Taeyang said, looking at the hundreds of cubs pressed against him. I think they did. The elder's face did something complicated. Anger, confusion, maybe disgust. He barked orders in his own language, and several Vrelnath warriors moved forward to collect the cubs. The cubs snarled and refused to move. One of the warriors tried to pull a cub away from Taeyang, and the cub bit him. The elder held up a hand, and the warriors stopped. He stared at Taeyang for a long time. This has never happened in our history, the elder said. The cubs have chosen. According to our laws, you are now their guardian until they reject you or you prove unworthy. I'm sorry, what? Taeyang said. Mina pushed through the crowd. Elder, surely there's been a mistake. This is just a maintenance worker. He has no training with children, especially not Vrelnath cubs. The cubs have chosen, the elder repeated. We do not question their instinct. Taeyang felt the weight of hundreds of small bodies pressed against him. The silver-furred cub, with 3 eyes, looked up at him and made a soft chirping sound. Despite everything, despite the fear and confusion, Taeyang felt something in his chest soften. Are you hungry? He asked the cub. The cub chirped again. The other cubs perked up, their ears or whatever they had for ears pointing toward him. Okay, Taeyang said. Let's get you all something to eat. Getting 500 alien children through the station to a cafeteria was chaos. Getting them to sit down was harder. Getting them food they could actually eat took 3 hours and help from the station's xenobiologists. But eventually, Taeyang sat in the middle of a massive room surrounded by cubs who were now fed and much calmer. The Vrelnath elders watched from a distance. So did Minha and half the station's security force. Taeyang had organized the cubs into groups based on size. He had found entertainment programs on his datapad that seemed to keep them interested. He had even gotten them to stop growling at everyone who came near. How are you doing this? Minha whispered, crouching next to him. I have no idea, Taeyang admitted. I'm just treating them like kids. They're not kids, they're trained from birth to be warriors. They're still kids, Taeyang said. He watched as 2 cubs started to fight over a toy. Hey, you two, share it or nobody gets it. The cubs stopped fighting. They looked at each other, then started playing together. Minha stared. This is insane. Yeah, Taeyang agreed. The eldest cub, a female with dark scales and old scars, sat down next to Taeyang. She was almost as tall as he was sitting down. She studied him with intelligent eyes. You are not strong, she said in broken human language. But you are safe. Thank you, Taeyang said. I am Nari. I will protect you from the others who do not understand. The others? Nari gestured at the Vrelnath elders. They will want to take you away. They do not like things that are different. Well, that's not good. No, Nari agreed. It is not. The silver-furred cub climbed into Taeyang's lap and curled up like a cat. Taeyang hesitated, then carefully patted the cub's head. The cub made a happy sound. What's your name? Taeyang asked. Jihoon, the cub said sleepily. Okay, Jihoon. You can't sleep here. We need to find you all proper beds. Stay with you, Jihoon mumbled. I don't think I have a choice, Taeyang said quietly. Anya stood up. I need to report this. The diplomats are going to lose their minds. The Vrelnath cubs choosing a human. This has never happened. What happens now? Taeyang asked. I have no idea. But Taeyang, your life just got very complicated. Taeyang looked at the 500 alien children who had decided he was their parent. Some were playing, some were fighting, some were sleeping. All of them kept looking back at him to make sure he was still there. Yeah, he said. I think you're right. Part 2, the meeting room was too small for everyone who wanted to be there. Taeyang sat at a table surrounded by human diplomats, Vrelnath elders, scientists, and security officers. Everyone was talking at once. He had not slept in 36 hours. The cubs were in the next room with guards watching them. Every few minutes one would cry out for Taeyang, and he would have to call back that he was still there. It was like having 500 very dangerous toddlers. "This is a disaster," said Ambassador Quan, a thin human woman with gray hair. "The Vrelnath Empire sent their most important cubs here for a cultural program. Now they've all bonded to a maintenance worker. Do you understand the diplomatic implications?" "I understand I didn't ask for this," Taeyang said tiredly. "The cubs cannot be separated from him," said Elder Vorak, the same Vrelnath who had found them in the tunnel. "Our bonding instinct is absolute. To separate them now would damage them permanently." Mina pulled up charts on the display screen. She had been studying the situation all night. "I've been researching human interactions with other species. Humans have successfully worked with over 40 different alien children in various programs. We show high emotional intelligence and caretaking behaviors that cross species barriers." "That explains nothing," Ambassador Quan said. "Why did all 500 pick the same person?" "I think," Mina said slowly, "it's because Taeyang didn't treat them like weapons. The Vrelnath raised their cubs for war. Everything is about strength, combat, dominance. But Taeyang asked if they were hungry. He showed concern, not fear." Elder Vorak made a growling sound. "Our methods have created the greatest warriors in the galaxy for 10,000 years. I'm not saying your methods are wrong," Mina said carefully. "I'm saying the cubs recognize something they needed. Something different." "This is unacceptable," said another Vrelnath elder younger than Vorak with black fur. "The cubs are meant to return to our homeworld for training. They will enter the military academies. This human cannot interfere with that." "Then what do you suggest?" Ambassador Quan asked. The black-furred elder stood. "The human must come with them, to Vrelnath Prime. He will serve as their base guardian during their training year. After that, the cubs will have matured past the bonding phase and this situation will resolve itself." The room erupted in arguments. Humans protested sending one of their people to the Vrelnath homeworld. The Vrelnath argued about allowing a human into their most sacred military facilities. Taeyang put his head in his hands. "Can I say something?" he asked quietly. No one heard him. "Can I say something?" he said louder. The room went silent. "What about what the cubs want?" Taeyang asked. "They're children. Doesn't anyone care about what's best for them?" "They are warriors in training," the black-furred elder said coldly. "Not children. They're both," Taeyang said. "I've spent a day and a half with them. They're smart, they're strong, and yes, they're dangerous. But they're also scared and confused and looking for someone to help them feel safe. That's what children do." Elder Vorak studied Taeyang. "You would be willing to go to Vrelnath Prime? To live among us for a full cycle? If that's what the cubs need, yes. You do not know what you are agreeing to. Our world is harsh. Our training is brutal. You will see things that will disturb you." "Probably," Taeyang agreed. "But those cubs chose me for some reason. I'm not going to abandon them." Ambassador Quan looked like she wanted to argue, but Mina spoke first. "I'll go with him. As a cultural observer, if we're sending a human to Vrelnath Prime, we need documentation. This could be important for future relations." The Vrelnath elders spoke to each other in their own language for several minutes. Finally, Vorak turned back to the humans. "We agree. The human Taeyang will accompany the cubs to Vrelnath Prime. He will serve as their guardian during their first training cycle. Observer Miha may accompany him. After one cycle, we will reevaluate." "And if we refuse?" Ambassador Quan asked. "Then we take the cubs by force and deal with the psychological damage. They will likely become unstable and unsuitable for service. Your choice." It was not really a choice at all. 3 days later, Taeyang stood in a shuttle bay, watching his few belongings being loaded onto a Vrelnath ship. The ship was massive, dark metal covered in symbols he could not read. It looked like something designed to scare enemies, not transport children. Minha stood next to him, carrying her own bags and several cases of recording equipment. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "No," Taeyang said honestly, "but I don't think I have a choice." "You always have a choice. Not if it means hurting those kids." The cubs were being loaded onto the ship in groups. They were excited, making loud noises and running around. But every few minutes they would stop and look back to make sure Taeyang was still there. Jihoon had not left his side since the meeting. "Will there be food on the ship?" Jihoon asked for the 10th time. "Yes, there will be food. And you will stay with us?" "I'll stay with you." Jihoon seemed satisfied. He held onto Taeyang's hand with claws that could probably cut through steel but were being very gentle. Nari approached, walking with the confidence of someone much older. The elders are angry about you coming. They think you will make us weak. Do you think that? Taiyang asked. No, I think you will make us different. Different is not weak. That's pretty wise for someone your age. I am 12 cycles old. I have already killed in training. I am not a child. Taiyang looked at this young girl with scars on her arms and sadness in her eyes. You should be allowed to be a child. That is not the Vrelnath way. Maybe it should be. Nari stared at him, then walked away without responding. But Taiyang thought he saw something change in her expression. The journey to Vrelnath Prime took 5 days. The ship was not designed for comfort. The cubs slept in large group chambers on simple mats. Taiyang and Minha were given a small room with 2 narrow beds and no windows. Taiyang spent most of the journey with the cubs. He learned their names, though he could only remember about 50 of them so far. He played games with them, though their games often involved mock combat that would terrify most humans. He told them stories from Earth, and they listened with fascination. Why do your warriors protect the weak? Asked a cub named Daehyun who had copper-colored scales. Because that's what heroes do, Taiyang said. But the weak slow you down. They make you vulnerable. Maybe. But protecting others makes you stronger in different ways. It gives you something to fight for beyond yourself. The cubs thought about this. These were new ideas to them. Minha recorded everything. She took notes, made videos, and interviewed cubs when they were willing to talk to her. At night, she would sit with Taiyang and discuss what they were seeing. They're so young, she said one evening. Some of them are barely 3 years old and they already know how to kill. It's disturbing. It's how they survive, Taiyang said. Their empire is built on strength. But I keep thinking, what if there's another way? You can't change an entire civilization's culture. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to take care of 500 kids. On the 5th day, the ship's speakers announced their arrival. Taiyang moved to a window and saw Vrelnath Prime for the first time. The planet was beautiful and terrifying. Mountains covered in dark forests, cities built like fortresses. Even from space, Taiyang could see massive training grounds and military installations. This was a world built for war. It's not too late to turn back, Minha said. Yes, it is, Taiyang replied. The cubs pressed against the windows, excited to see their homeworld. Jihoon grabbed Taiyang's hand again. Do not worry, Jihoon said. I will protect you. Taiyang smiled despite his fear. Thank you, Jihoon. The ship landed at a massive military complex on the planet's northern continent. When the doors opened, Taiyang felt the weight of the planet's gravity. It was heavier than Earth, and he immediately felt tired. Hundreds of Vrelnath warriors waited outside. They watched as the cubs disembarked, and they watched as Taiyang followed. He felt their eyes on him, measuring him, judging him. He was a human on a world where humans were considered weak prey species that got lucky with technology. A massive Vrelnath in decorated armor stepped forward. He was even larger than Elder Vorak, with silver fur and eyes that looked like they had seen 1,000 battles. I am Commander Krell, he said. I oversee this training facility. You are the human who has corrupted our cubs. I'm Taiyang Park, and I haven't corrupted anyone. We shall see. Your cubs will train like all others. They will learn combat strategy and honor. If you interfere, you will be removed. If you try to make them weak, you will be removed. If you fail to control them, you will be removed. Do you understand? I understand. Good. You will stay in the human quarters. The cubs will stay in the training barracks. You may see them during designated times only. Behind Taiyang, 500 cubs made angry growling sounds. Nari stepped forward. No, she said simply. Commander Krell's eyes narrowed. No, the human stays with us or we do not train. You do, we do now. The tension was thick enough to cut. Commander Krell stared at Nari, and Nari stared back without fear. Finally, the commander made a sound like a frustrated sigh. Fine. The human may stay in the barracks, but he follows all rules or he leaves. Agreed, Taiyang said quickly before Nari could argue more. Commander Krell turned and walked away. The other warriors guided the cub. The Hall of First Lessons was not what Taiyang expected. He had imagined something like a school. Instead, it looked like a prison designed by people who hated comfort. The walls were bare stone. The sleeping chambers had thin mats on hard floors. There were no decorations, no colors, nothing soft or gentle anywhere. The cubs did not seem bothered. This was normal to them. Taeyang's first week was a nightmare. He woke at dawn when the training bells rang. The cubs would rush to the training yards where Vrelnath instructors taught them combat techniques. Taeyang watched as 3-year-olds learned to use weapons that could kill an adult human. He watched as they were hit, knocked down, and told to get up and try again. "This is abuse," he whispered to Minha on the 3rd day. "This is their culture," she whispered back. "Be careful what you say." But Taeyang could not stay silent when he saw a young cub named Hyunwoo get struck so hard he flew backward into a wall. The cub was bleeding. The instructor was already moving to the next student. Taeyang jumped up and ran to Hyunwoo. "Are you okay?" The cub looked confused. "I failed to block. The pain teaches me to not fail again. You're 6 years old. You shouldn't be getting hurt like this. I am a warrior. Pain is part of learning." Taeyang looked up and saw Commander Krell watching him from across the yard. The commander's expression was clear. "Do not interfere." That night, Taeyang sat with the cubs in their sleeping chamber. They were exhausted but restless. Some had injuries that were being treated with medical paste that smelled terrible. Jihoon climbed into Taeyang's lap as usual. "Tell us a story," Jihoon said. "What kind of story?" "One about Earth warriors," Nari said. She sat nearby, always watching. Taeyang thought for a moment. "Okay. There was once a firefighter named Sora. Firefighters are humans who run into burning buildings to save people." "Why would they do that?" asked Daehyun. "Fire is dangerous, because people are trapped inside. Someone has to help them. But if they die, they cannot help anyone," another cub said. "They don't want to die. They're very careful. They wear special protective suits, they work in teams, and they plan their actions carefully. But they go in anyway because saving lives is more important than being safe." The cubs were silent, thinking about this. "So they are warriors who protect instead of conquer?" Nari asked. "Exactly. We are taught that protection is weakness, that mercy is failure." Taeyang looked at the gathered cubs. "What do you think? Do you believe that?" No one answered, but Taeyang could see them thinking. The weeks passed slowly. Taeyang fell into a routine. He woke with the cubs, watched their training, ate meals with them, and told them stories at night. He learned more of their language. He memorized more names. He watched as they grew stronger and faster under the brutal training. But he also saw changes that worried the Vrelnath instructors. The cubs started helping each other. If one fell during training, others would help them up. If one was injured, others would share their medical supplies. They began working together in ways that Vrelnath cubs normally did not. "This is wrong," Taeyang heard one instructor say to another. "They are becoming too attached to each other. Warriors must be able to fight alone. The human is corrupting them," the other replied. Taeyang said nothing, but he kept doing what he was doing. 1 month after arriving, the cubs faced their first major test, the trial of first blood. All young Vrelnath must complete it to continue their training. Commander Krell explained it to Taeyang the night before. The cubs will enter an obstacle course filled with traps and challenges. They must reach the end without help. Many fail, some die. This is how we separate the strong from the weak. "You're going to let children die in a training exercise? They are warriors. They accepted this path when they were born. They were born into it. They didn't choose it. Life does not care about choice, human. Only strength matters." Taeyang wanted to argue more, but Minna grabbed his arm and pulled him away. "You can't stop this," she said when they were alone. "If you try, they'll remove you and the cubs will have no one. So I just watch children die? You watch and hope they're as strong as everyone thinks they are." That night, Taeyang could not sleep. The cubs were nervous too. They gathered around him in the darkness. "I am scared," Jihoon admitted quietly. "Me too," Taeyang said. But you are not taking the trial. I'm scared for all of you. I don't want any of you to get hurt." "But we will get hurt," Nari said. "The trial is designed to hurt us, I know. And I hate it. But I also know you're all incredibly strong and smart. You've been training hard. You'll help each other, right?" "The instructors say we must complete it alone," Daehyun said. "The instructors aren't taking the trial. You are. Do what you think is right." The next morning, Taeyang stood with the instructors and other observers on a platform overlooking the trial course. It was massive, filled with obstacles he could barely see from this distance. Sharp barriers, climbing walls, pits that might contain who knows what. The cubs entered in groups of 10. Taeyang watched with his heart pounding. The first few groups struggled but managed. Taeyang saw cubs get cut by blades, fall from heights, and crawl through sections filled with things that bit them. But they kept going. They reached the end bloody and exhausted but alive. Then Jihoon's group entered. Taeyang gripped the railing as he watched. Jihoon was small compared to the others. His silver fur made him easy to spot. The group spread out as they entered the course, each cub taking their own path as they were supposed to. Jihoon hit the first obstacle, a wall covered in sharp spikes. He tried to climb but kept slipping. Taeyang wanted to shout encouragement but knew he could not interfere. Then something unexpected happened. Another cub from Jihoon's group, a larger one with red scales, came back and showed Jihoon a different path around the obstacle. Together they moved forward. Commander Krell noticed. "What are they doing?" "They are supposed to work alone." More cubs started helping each other. They pointed out hidden traps. They worked together to climb walls that would be impossible alone. They formed protective groups around the smallest cubs. "Stop them," an instructor said. "This violates the rules." "No," Commander Krell said slowly. "Let them continue. I want to see what happens." What happened was extraordinary. The cubs moved through the course faster than any group before them. They adapted to challenges in real time, communicating and coordinating. When one cub fell into a pit, 3 others worked together to pull them out. They were not fighting alone. They were fighting as a unit. Every single cub in Jihoon's group reached the end. Some were injured, but none were dead. The Vrelnath instructors stood in shocked silence. The remaining groups saw what happened. They copied the strategy. Cubs who normally competed with each other started cooperating. The trial that was designed to have a 30% failure rate suddenly had 0 failures. Commander Krell turned to Taeyang. "You taught them this. I taught them to care about each other. They figured out the rest themselves. This is not how Vrelnath train." "Maybe it should be." The commander's expression was unreadable. He turned back to watch the final groups complete the trial. When the last cub crossed the finish line, he walked away without another word. That night, the cubs celebrated. They were exhausted and covered in bandages, but they were proud. They had all survived something that should have killed some of them. Jihoon sat with Taeyang, looking at a cut on his arm that was already healing. "I was so scared," Jihoon said. "But Minsu helped me, and Hyunwoo showed me where the traps were. We helped each other and we all survived." "You did great," Taeyang said. "All of you did." Nari approached. She looked thoughtful. "The instructors are angry. They say we cheated. Did you break any specific rules?" "No, we were told to complete the trial." "We did. Then you didn't cheat. You just found a better way." "A better way?" Nari repeated. "The elders will not like this." She was right. Over the next few days, Taeyang heard rumors. The cubs were developing wrong. They were showing too much emotion, too much attachment to each other. They questioned orders when they did not make sense. They showed mercy in practice combat, but their performance scores were also the highest ever recorded. They were stronger, faster, and more coordinated than any previous generation of cubs. The elders did not know what to do with this information. Minya met with Taeyang in their small quarters. "I've been analyzing the data. The cubs are exceeding every benchmark. Their emotional development is not making them weaker, it's making them better. Try telling that to Commander Krell." "Actually, I think Krell already knows. That's what scares him." "What do you mean?" "If the cubs can be better by caring for each other, it means everything the Vrelnath believe about strength might be wrong. That's a dangerous idea for a society built entirely on those beliefs." Taeyang understood. He had not just changed 500 cubs. He had challenged the foundation of an entire empire. That night, Nari came to him with an expression he had never seen on her face before. Fear. "Something is wrong," she said. "I heard the instructors talking. They used words I did not fully understand, but they sounded like threats. Against you. I'll be careful." "No, you do not understand. Some of the elders want you gone. They think you are ruining us. They might try to hurt you." "The cubs will protect him," Jihoon said, appearing beside Nari. "We cannot protect him from everything," Nari said. "He is not a warrior." Taeyang put a hand on both of their shoulders. "I'm not leaving you. Whatever happens, I'm not abandoning you." "Even if it is dangerous?" Nari asked. "Especially then." "That's what parents do. They stay." Nari's eyes widened slightly. "Parent? Isn't that what I am? To all of you?" Nari was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something Taeyang had never seen a Vrelnath do. She hugged him. It was awkward and brief, but it was real.
"Thank you," she whispered.
For staying. More cubs gathered around them. They did not all hug, but they sat close, forming a protective circle. Taeyang looked at these young warriors who had chosen him for reasons he still did not fully understand. "We should sleep," he said. "Tomorrow will be another hard day." But he lay awake long after the cubs slept, wondering what was coming next and how he could possibly protect 500 children in a world that saw kindness as weakness. The assassin came 3 months into their stay on Vrelnath Prime. Taeyang was walking back to the barracks after watching evening training when he felt something was wrong. The corridors were too quiet. The usual guards were missing from their posts. He walked faster. A shadow moved behind him. He turned and saw a Vrelnath warrior in black armor, holding a blade that glowed with energy. The warrior's eyes were cold and focused. "The elders send their regards," the warrior said. Taeyang backed away. "This is crazy. Killing me won't change anything. It will remove the corruption from our cubs. They will forget you in time and return to proper training." The warrior moved forward. Taeyang had nowhere to run. He was not a fighter. He was a maintenance worker who fixed air filters. He closed his eyes, waiting for the end. It did not come. Instead, he heard a roar that shook the corridor walls. He opened his eyes and saw Nari standing between him and the assassin. Behind her, hundreds of cubs poured into the corridor from every direction. They moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the assassin in seconds. "You will not touch our parent," Nari said, her voice deadly calm. The assassin looked around at the wall of cubs. "You defend weakness. You have been corrupted." "We defend what matters," Ji-hoon said, standing beside Nari despite being half her size. "That is strength." The assassin tried to attack anyway. He moved fast, blade swinging. But the cubs moved faster. They did not kill him. They did not need to. Within seconds, the assassin was on the ground, disarmed and held in place by dozens of small but incredibly strong hands. Commander Krell arrived with guards. He looked at the scene in silence for a long moment. "Secure the prisoner," he ordered. Then he turned to the cubs. "Return to your barracks now." The cubs did not move. They looked at Taeyang. "It's okay," Taeyang said, his voice shaking. "Go back, I'll be there soon." Slowly, reluctantly, the cubs left. Nari was the last to go, her eyes never leaving the captured assassin. Commander Krell approached Taeyang. "Come with me." They walked to Krell's office, a large room filled with weapons and battle trophies. Minya was already there, looking worried. "Sit," Krell commanded. Taeyang sat. His hands were still trembling. "There was an attempt on your life," Krell said. "Ordered by certain members of the Elder Council who believe your presence is damaging to our cubs' development." "Are they right?" Taeyang asked. "Am I damaging them?" Krell was silent for a moment. "You are changing them. That is certain. Whether this is damage or improvement is a matter of debate. What do you think?" "I think," Krell said slowly, "that I have trained warriors for 50 years. I have seen thousands of cubs pass through these halls. None have performed like yours. They are faster, smarter, more coordinated than any generation before them. But they also question orders. They show mercy. They care about each other more than victory. This troubles many. But not you. I did not say that. I am troubled. But I am also curious. The cubs demonstrated something tonight that I have never seen. They detected a threat I did not. They responded with tactical brilliance. They neutralized an adult warrior without killing him. That level of control and coordination is remarkable. They were protecting their family," Taeyang said. "Family," Krell repeated. "That word is not part of Relnet military culture. We have clans, units, battle brothers, but not families. Maybe that's what you've been missing," Krell's expression hardened. "Careful, human. You are alive because the cubs are valuable. Do not presume to lecture me on Vrelnath culture." Mina spoke up. "Commander, I've been documenting everything. The data shows clear patterns. The cub's emotional development correlates directly with improved cognitive function, problem-solving abilities, and teamwork. They're not becoming weaker. They're evolving. Evolution requires discarding the old," Krell said. "Many will resist that. What happens now?" Taeyang asked. "Now? Now I must decide if tonight's attempt will be the last one. I cannot guarantee your safety if powerful elders want you dead. The cubs can protect you from one assassin, but not from an army. So I should leave? If you leave, what happens to the cubs?" Taeyang thought about Ji-hoon's scared face, Nari's protective stance and the hundreds of cubs who had rushed to defend him without hesitation. They'll be forced back into traditional training. Everything they've learned will be erased. Exactly. So you have a choice. Leave and save yourself or stay and risk everything. That's not really a choice. No, Krell agreed. It is not. The next morning, Taeyang woke to find every cub in the barracks awake and waiting. They sat in organized groups watching the entrance. We will not let anyone hurt you, Minsu said. He was one of the older cubs with copper scales and battle scars. You can't guard me all the time, Taeyang said. Yes, we can, Jihoon said simply. And they did. For the next week, the cubs created a rotation system. Groups would shadow Taeyang wherever he went. They checked corridors before he entered them. They tasted his food to make sure it was safe. It was impressive and heartbreaking. You should be training, not guarding me, Taeyang said. You are our priority, Nari replied. The instructors can wait, but the instructors could not wait. Commander Krell called Taeyang to his office again. The cubs are refusing to train properly. They are too focused on protecting you. This cannot continue like I've tried to tell them to stop. They do not listen. They have bonded to you too deeply. This is becoming a problem. What do you want me to do? Krell studied him. I want you to train them yourself. What? You have taught them things I did not intend them to learn. Cooperation, emotional awareness, strategic thinking beyond simple combat. These skills are valuable even if they are unconventional. If you are going to influence them anyway, do it properly. Teach them your human ways alongside our Vrelnath training. I'm not a teacher. I'm not qualified. You are what they need. That is qualification enough. So Taeyang became a teacher. It was terrifying. He had no training for this, no lesson plans, no idea what he was doing. But the cubs listened to him in ways they did not listen to the Vrelnath instructors. He taught them things he remembered from Earth. History lessons about leaders who chose peace over war. Science lessons about how cooperation makes groups stronger. Literature about heroes who sacrifice themselves for others. Why do humans value sacrifice? Asked a cub named Hyejin. Because sometimes saving others is more important than saving yourself. But if you die, you cannot help anyone else. True. But if everyone only thinks about themselves, no one helps anyone. Sacrifice shows that some things matter more than individual survival. The cubs thought about this. It was so different from what they had always been taught. One day, Taeyang brought the cubs outside to a training field. Today we're going to learn a human game called football. Is it combat training? Daehyun asked. Sort of. It's about teamwork, strategy, and working toward a goal together. The objective is to get this ball into that goal. He pointed to markers he had set up. But you have to pass it to each other. You can't just run alone. The cubs were confused at first. They were used to competition, not cooperation. But as they played, something changed. They started to understand. Passing the ball required trust. Scoring required everyone working together. Winning meant the whole team succeeded. They loved it. Commander Krell watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. Minya came to stand beside Taeyang. You're really doing it. You're changing them. I'm just showing them different options. That's more revolutionary than you realize. She was right. Word of what was happening spread beyond the training facility. Other Vrelnath came to observe. Some were curious. Some were angry. All were confused by cubs who laughed while playing, who hugged each other when someone was hurt, who cared about things beyond combat ranking. A delegation of elders arrived to assess the situation. They watched the cubs train, interviewed instructors, and studied Minha's data. Finally, they called a meeting. Taeyang stood before 5 Vrelnath elders in a formal council chamber. Commander. Krell stood beside him. Minya was allowed to observe but not speak. Human Taeyang, the eldest spoke. We have reviewed the cubs' progress. Their combat scores are exceptional. Their strategic thinking is advanced. Their physical abilities exceed all projections. However, they also display emotional attachments, questioning of authority, and mercy toward opponents. These are considered weaknesses in Vrelnath culture. With respect, elders, maybe they're not weaknesses. Maybe they're different kinds of strength. You presume to tell us what strength is? No. I'm just suggesting that strength can mean more than fighting ability. The cubs are strong fighters, but they're also strong friends, strong teammates, strong thinkers. Isn't that valuable? Another elder spoke. They are weapons. They do not need to be friends. They're children, Taeyang said firmly. Children who happen to be warriors. But children first. That is where you are wrong. They are warriors who happen to be young. There is a difference. Commander Krell stepped forward. If I may speak, elders, I have observed these cubs closely. Yes, they are different from previous generations, but they are also superior in measurable ways. They respond to threats faster, coordinate better, adapt to new situations with remarkable speed. The humans' methods are unorthodox, but they are effective. Effective at what? Creating warriors or creating something else? Perhaps, Krell said carefully, creating better warriors by making them something else as well. The elders conferred among themselves in their own language. Taeyang waited, his heart pounding. Finally, the eldest turned back. We have decided. The human may continue his work with the cubs for now, but they must also pass the Crucible of Ascension in 6 months. What's that? Taeyang asked. A trial designed for adult warriors entering service. It has never been attempted by cubs. Many adult warriors fail, some die. If your cubs can pass this trial, it will prove that your methods create strength, not weakness. If they fail, you will leave, and the cubs will be returned to traditional training immediately. 6 months? They're not ready for an adult trial. That is our decision. Prepare them as you see fit. We will be watching. The elders left. Taeyang turned to Krell. They're trying to kill them. This is a death sentence, perhaps, or perhaps it is a challenge. The cubs have surprised us before. Maybe they will do so again. They're children. They are Vrelnath, Krell said. And thanks to you, they are also something new. Now we find out if new is better or just different. That night, Taeyang gathered all the cubs and told them about the Crucible. They listened in silence. I won't lie to you, he said. This will be the hardest thing you've ever faced. It's designed to test adult warriors. Many of you might get hurt. Some of you might die. Then we will not do it, Nari said. We will refuse. If you refuse, they'll take me away and force you back into traditional training. Then we fight, Jihoon said, his small face fierce. No, we don't fight. We prepare. We have 6 months. I'll teach you everything I can. We'll work together, use every advantage we have, and we'll show them that being different doesn't mean being weak. The cubs looked at each other, then back at Taeyang. We trust you, Nari said. If you say we can do this, we will try. Taeyang looked at these 500 children who had chosen him, who trusted him, who believed in him even when he did not believe in himself. Then let's get to work. 6 months passed faster than Taeyang thought possible. Every day was training, not just combat training, though there was plenty of that. He trained the cubs in teamwork, communication, strategy, and most importantly, trust. You're going to face challenges designed to break you apart, he told them during practice sessions. The only way to survive is to stay together. Watch each other's backs. Protect the weak points. Move as one unit. The Vrelnath instructors watched with skepticism, but they could not argue with results. The cubs were performing beyond anything seen before. They moved like a single organism, anticipating each other's actions, compensating for individual weaknesses with group strength. Mina documented everything. The cubs have formed something unique, she told Taeyang one evening. They're not just a group. They're a true unit with emotional bonds reinforcing tactical ones. It's beautiful and terrifying. Will it be enough? Taeyang asked. I don't know. The Crucible of Ascension has a 40% mortality rate for adult warriors. Cubs have never attempted it. Then we'll have to be better than anyone expects. The day before the trial, Taeyang could not sleep. He sat in the barracks watching the cubs rest. Some slept peacefully, others tossed and turned with nervous energy. Jihoon, now bigger but still young, crawled over to sit beside him. Are you scared? Jihoon asked. Terrified, Taeyang admitted. Me too. But we have trained hard. We are ready. I hope so, Nari joined them. She had grown taller and stronger over the months, her scars multiplying, but her eyes sharper than ever. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something. You changed us. Not just made us better warriors, though we are that too. You made us better beings. We will carry that forever. Don't talk like you're saying goodbye, Taeyang said. I am not. I am saying thank you. In case I forget to say it later. Other cubs gathered around, forming their familiar protective circle. They sat together in silence, drawing strength from each other's presence. Morning came too soon. The cubs assembled in the staging area. Thousands of Vrelnath had come to watch. This was unprecedented. Everyone wanted to see if the corrupted cubs would prove themselves or die trying. Commander Krell addressed them. The Crucible of Ascension tests everything a warrior must be: strength, speed, intelligence, courage, and will to survive. You will enter as a group, but the challenges are designed to separate you. Many of you will not make it to the end. This is acceptable. Only the strongest deserve to graduate. We will all make it, Nari said loudly. That has never happened in the history of the Crucible. Then we will be the first. Krell almost smiled. Bold words. Prove them. The cubs entered the Crucible. Taeyang watched from the observation platform with Minha and the elders. His hands gripped the railing so hard his knuckles were white. The first challenge was a maze filled with traps. Blades that shot from walls, floors that collapsed, toxic gas in certain corridors. Adult warriors usually split up to find the exit faster. The cubs did not split up. They moved together, the larger cubs protecting the smaller ones. When a trap activated, they shielded each other. When one cub found a safe path, they signaled the others. It took longer than individual attempts, but every single cub made it through. The elders murmured to each other, surprised. The second challenge was a climbing wall under fire. Automated weapons shot training rounds that hurt but did not kill. The goal was to reach the top while dodging fire. Most warriors climbed separately, accepting that some would be hit. The cubs formed a shield wall. The strongest ones with the best armor took the front, blocking fire while others climbed behind them. They rotated positions so no one took too much damage. They pulled struggling cubs up. They refused to leave anyone behind. All 500 reached the top. Commander Krell watched with an expression that might have been pride. The third challenge was a combat arena. Warriors entered and faced automated combat drones until they were defeated or gave up. It was designed to test how long each warrior could fight alone. The cubs did not fight alone. They fought in coordinated groups using tactics that confused the drone's programming. When one group tired, another took their place. They adapted to the drone's attack patterns and found weaknesses together. They turned an individual endurance test into a team strategy exercise. They disabled all the drones. The crowd of watching Vrelnath was no longer silent. They were talking excitedly, pointing, arguing. This was not how the Crucible was supposed to work. They are cheating, one elder said. They are adapting, Krell replied. That is not the same thing. The fourth challenge was psychological. Each cub was placed in an isolated chamber with an illusion of their greatest fear. Usually warriors broke down, gave up, or fought phantoms until they collapsed from exhaustion. Taeyang could not see what the cubs were experiencing, but he could hear them. They were calling to each other through the walls. Nari's voice carried above the others. Remember who you are. Remember we are together even when apart. The fear is not real. The cubs began chanting in unison, their voices overlapping through the chambers. They were supporting each other even in isolation. One by one, they pushed through their fears and emerged from the chambers. All 500 passed. The elders stood up from their seats, shocked. This is impossible, the eldest said. Yet it is happening, Mina replied quietly. The fifth and final challenge was the hardest. It was simply called the choice. Each cub had to choose between personal survival or helping others. In the past, warriors who chose to help others usually died because of it. Those who chose survival passed but lived with shame. The cubs entered a large chamber where they faced a simple scenario. Each had a clear path to the exit. But along the way, they could see other cubs trapped in dangerous situations. Helping meant risking injury or death. Ignoring meant guaranteed safety. Every single cub chose to help. They ran toward trapped companions instead of the exit. They fought to free others from obstacles. They carried injured cubs who could not walk. They took damage meant for others. And slowly, painfully, they made their way to the exit together. Taeyang was crying. He did not care who saw. The last cub to exit was Ji-hoon. He was limping, bleeding, exhausted. Nari had him supported on one side, Minsu on the other. When they crossed the finish line, the cubs cheered. Not because they had won, but because everyone had survived. All 500 cubs completed the Crucible of Ascension. The watching crowd erupted. Some Vrelnath cheered, some argued. Some stood in stunned silence. This had never happened in 10,000 years of their history. Commander Krell descended to the arena floor. He approached the cubs who stood together, battered but unbroken. You were told that only the strongest survive, Krell said. His voice carried through the sudden quiet. You have proven that strength means something different than we believed. You fought as one. You protected each other. You refused to abandon the weak. And because of this, you all survived something that should have killed half of you. He turned to address the watching crowd. These cubs are different. The human made them different. But they are not weaker for it. They are superior. They are the future of what we could become if we have the courage to change. The eldest elder descended slowly. He approached Taeyang on the observation platform. You have proven your point, human. The cubs are strong because of you, not despite you. This is difficult for us to accept, but we cannot argue with results. Does this mean they can stay as they are? Taeyang asked. It means, the elder said slowly, that we have much to reconsider about our culture. But yes, they may continue their training in this new way, and you may remain as their guardian. Taeyang felt relief wash over him. Thank you. Do not thank us. We are not doing this out of kindness. We are doing this because you have created something valuable, better warriors through unexpected means. We would be foolish to waste that. Down in the arena, the cubs were celebrating. Jihoon looked up at the observation platform and waved at Taeyang with his whole arm. Taeyang waved back, smiling through his tears. Minha stood beside him. You did it. You changed an empire, and I didn't change anything. I just loved some kids who needed it. Sometimes that's all it takes. 10 years passed. Taeyang stood on a balcony overlooking the training academy, which looked very different now. There were still combat yards and obstacle courses, but there were also gardens, play areas, and rooms for teaching things beyond warfare. The cubs he had raised were now adult warriors serving in the Vrelnath military. But they were different kinds of warriors. They questioned orders that did not make sense. They protected civilians in combat zones. They looked for peaceful solutions before violent ones. And they taught the next generation of cubs the lessons Taeyang had taught them. Jihoon visited regularly. He was an officer now, decorated for his service, but he still called Taeyang parent and brought him gifts from his missions. The council has approved the House of Bridged Worlds, Jihoon told him during his latest visit. A new military order based on cooperation between species. They want me to help lead it. That's wonderful, Taeyang said. It would not exist without you. None of this would exist without you. Nari held a high position in the military now, but she made time to visit the academy and teach young cubs. She had become an advocate for reform, pushing for changes to the harsh training methods. Not all Vrelnath agreed with her, but many listened. Minya had become his partner in every sense. She continued to study and document the changes in Vrelnath culture, but she also helped Taeyang raise new generations of cubs. They had turned one success into a movement. Do you ever regret it? She asked him one evening. Giving up your simple life to deal with all this? Taeyang watched a group of young cubs playing in the courtyard below. They were laughing, working together to build something with training blocks. Their instructors watched with patient smiles instead of stern disapproval. Not for a second, he said. A message came through his communicator. It was from Earth. The human government wanted him to return, to be celebrated as a hero who had changed galactic politics. Taeyang looked at the cubs playing below, at the academy that had transformed from a brutal training ground into something gentler, at Minha standing beside him, at everything they had built together. He sent a simple reply. I am home. That night he sat with the current generation of cubs, about 300 of them, all waiting to hear a story before sleep. Tell us about Earth, a small cub requested. Tell us about the firefighters, another added. Tell us about heroes who protect instead of conquer, a third said. Taeyang smiled and began to speak. As he told stories of human heroes, of people who chose compassion over cruelty and cooperation over conquest, he saw the cubs' eyes light up with understanding. They were learning the same lessons his first 500 had learned. That strength could mean many things. That warriors could be more than weapons. That caring for others was not weakness but the truest form of courage. Outside, the Vrelnath homeworld continued its routines. Soldiers trained, ships patrolled, the Empire maintained its power, but something had changed at its heart. Something small that started with one human and 500 cubs who chose him. The change spread slowly like ripples in a pond. Other species noticed. They requested similar programs. They wanted teachers who could show their young warriors that there were alternatives to endless violence. Taeyang would help when he could, but his priority remained the cubs who needed him most. He was not a soldier or a diplomat or a hero. He was just a man who fixed broken things, and perhaps the most broken thing he had fixed was not an air filter or a water pump, but the idea that kindness was weakness, and that love had no place in a warrior's training. Years from now, historians would mark this time as when the Vrelnath Empire began to change. They would point to battles won through strategy rather than brutality, to peace treaties signed instead of planets conquered, to a gradual shift in how strength was defined. But Taeyang would remember it differently. He would remember small moments. Jihoon's first smile, Nari's first hug, the first time the cubs called him parent and meant it. The night after the crucible when 500 children slept peacefully, knowing they had proven themselves without losing what made them special. He would remember that sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply caring about someone everyone else has written off as a weapon, and that sometimes, one ordinary person refusing to accept the world as it is can change everything. The cubs finished listening to his story and began settling down to sleep. Taeyang moved among them, checking that everyone was comfortable, saying quiet goodnights, being the presence they needed to feel safe.
Will you be here when we wake up?
A small cub asked sleepily. I will always be here, Taeyang promised. And he meant it. This was where he belonged, not on Earth being celebrated by strangers who did not understand what he had done, but here, in this room filled with children who had chosen him and whom he had chosen in return. Home was not a planet or a station. Home was wherever your family needed you. And Taeyang Park, former maintenance worker, accidental revolutionary, and parent to an ever-growing number of alien cubs, was finally home.